Somaliland, a land that declared independence more than 30 years ago. Yet still, no country officially recognizes it. It has its own flag, its own government, its own army, even its own currency. But here's the question everyone is asking. Which country will be the first to say, "Yes, Somaliland, you are an independent state"? Will it be Ethiopia, the United Kingdom, or the United States? Today we break it down. To understand Somaliland's quest for recognition, we must rewind the clock. The story begins in the late 19th century's scramble for Africa. Britain established the Protectorate of British Somaliland, a strategic outpost with clearly defined borders, separate from Italian Somaliland. This colonial-era boundary is a key part of its modern legal claim. In 1960, as independence swept the continent, British Somaliland became a sovereign state. But this freedom was short-lived. Driven by the powerful dream of pan-Somalism, uniting all Somali peoples, it voluntarily merged with the newly independent Italian Somaliland just 5 days later to form the Somali Republic. It was a union born of immense hope. However, the dream soured. Decades of political marginalization under the brutal dictatorship of Siad Barre culminated in a devastating civil war. In 1991, as Somalia's central government collapsed, Somaliland withdrew from the Union and reclaimed its independence. Since then, it has built a peaceful, democratic, and stable state, a stark contrast to the turmoil in Somalia. First, Ethiopia. Ethiopia is landlocked. Since it lost Eritrea in 1993, it depends heavily on Djibouti for access to the sea. Somaliland offers an alternative, the port of Berbera. Recognizing Somaliland could give Ethiopia a powerful economic advantage. Ethiopia already has a consulate in Hargeisa and works closely with Somaliland on security. But there's a risk. Recognizing Somaliland would anger Somalia and could upset the African Union. Let's turn to the United Kingdom, a nation with deep historical ties to Somaliland dating back to its time as a British protectorate. This shared history has fostered a large, politically active diaspora that consistently lobbies Parliament for recognition. While London admires Somaliland's democratic system and stability, it performs a delicate balancing act. The UK has invested heavily in its relationship with Somalia's government in Mogadishu, a partnership deemed crucial for combating regional threats like Al-Shabaab and piracy. Upsetting this fragile alliance is a risk the UK has been unwilling to take. Across the Atlantic, the United States adopts a pragmatic, yet unofficial, approach. Washington engages with Hargeisa on development and security, as the Pentagon is keenly aware of Somaliland's strategic coastline along the Gulf of Aden, a critical choke point for global trade. In an era of great power competition, a stable partner here is a significant asset. However, Washington plays a cautious game, wary of the Pandora's box theory. Officials fear recognition could embolden other separatist movements, undermining the African Union's principle of upholding colonial-era borders. The US will not be first, preferring to let a regional body or key ally take the lead. The path to Somaliland's recognition likely begins with a single, bold move, triggering a cascade of diplomatic shifts, the domino theory of statehood. If Ethiopia, driven by its strategic need for sea access, becomes the first to formally recognize Hargeisa, it would shatter the decades-long diplomatic stalemate. This act would provide political cover for other nations. The UK, with its deep historical ties, could be next. Then, the UAE, a key economic partner, might follow to secure its investments. The US, while cautious, would find it increasingly difficult to ignore a democratic partner in a volatile region. History shows that once momentum builds, it can become an unstoppable force. We saw this with South Sudan in 2011, where recognition came swiftly from dozens of countries. A similar bandwagon effect could take hold for Somaliland. Smaller nations, seeing the diplomatic wind shift, would likely follow the lead of major powers to gain favor, access new trade opportunities, and avoid being left behind. The floodgates of international diplomacy would open. So who will tip the first domino? All signs point to Ethiopia. The UK's historical legacy positions it as a likely second, while the US will probably wait until the political landscape is settled. But the debate has fundamentally shifted. For 3 decades, the world asked Somaliland should be recognized. Now the conversation is about and. This eventual recognition won't just be a footnote in history, it will fundamentally redraw the political and strategic map of the Horn of Africa, creating a new reality for millions. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more insightful content every week.